Under the weight of a falling night, snow drifted down like ashes from some unseen fire. It covered the valley in silence so deep that even the river forgot to move. Only one light burned in that wilderness, a dim orange glow from a cabin half buried in the white. Inside, a man sat by the hearth, his hat hung on the chair beside him, his revolver on the table though he hadn't touched it in months. His name was Cole Hart, 30 years old, tall and broad-shouldered, with the quiet of a man who had seen too much of the world and chosen, finally, to live apart from it. He was mending the strap of his saddle when he heard it, a sound so faint it could have been a dream, the uneven crunch of footsteps outside. For a moment, he thought the wind had fooled him again, but then came the knock. Weak, hesitant, like a creature too cold to keep knocking if ignored. He rose slowly, every motion measured, and unlatched the door. A figure stood there, small and trembling beneath a ragged blanket. The snow clung to her hair and lashes, turning her almost spectral in the lamplight. Her lips moved, though the words came like a breath between worlds. "Please," she whispered, "just let me stay until they are gone." Then her legs gave out. Cole caught her before she fell, her body light and shaking as if fear itself had weight. He carried her inside and laid her near the fire. Her face was young, maybe 20, Elara Greyfeather, though he did not know her name yet. There was a cut above her brow, dried blood on her cheek, and bruises along her wrists. Her clothing was thin, torn, more fit for autumn than this brutal snow. He wrapped her in his blanket and boiled water on the stove. The cabin filled with the smell of pine smoke and wet wool. When she stirred, he offered her a cup of tea and asked nothing. Her eyes opened, dark, wide, uncertain, and lingered on the man before her, his shadow flickering against the wall like something old and protective. "You're safe here," he said, his voice low as the crackling fire. "Rest." Outside, the wind wailed down the mountains like a warning. When she woke again, it was morning. Pale light pooled through the frosted window, and the world outside was buried deeper than before. Cole sat near the fire, whittling wood with a knife whose edge gleamed like remembered violence. She tried to rise, but pain shot through her leg. He stood immediately, steadying her shoulder. "Easy," he murmured. "You've been through a storm." Elara's eyes darted toward the door. "They might come," she said. "The men who burned my village." The knife paused in his hand. "How many?" "5," she whispered. "Their leader, Silas Red. He said he'd find me. Said I was his now." Her voice broke on the last word. Cole looked at her then, really looked, saw not just the fear, but the exhaustion that comes after too much loss. "You can stay as long as you need," he said simply. "Ain't no one crossing this ridge tonight." He turned back to the fire, and for a while they sat in silence. The only sound was the pop of resin in the wood and the wind scraping against the roof. But something fragile took shape in that quiet, an understanding that neither needed to speak. By midday, she managed to limp outside. The snow blinded her, but the air smelled clean, untouched. Cole was chopping wood near the barn, his breath rising like smoke. She watched him from the porch, the rhythmic swing of the axe, the easy grace in every motion. He glanced up once, catching her gaze, and she felt warmth crawl into the cold places inside her. He smiled, small and careful, like a man afraid of scaring off a bird. When night fell again, the storm eased. The world glimmered under moonlight, silver and still. Inside, she hummed softly as she mended one of his shirts by the fire. He listened without saying he liked it. Her voice was low and haunting, a song of rivers and spirits, of homes turned to smoke. When she finished, he said quietly, "That was beautiful." She looked up, startled. "It's from my mother. I thought no one remembered it but me." "Reckon now 2 of us do," he said. She smiled then, a faint, cautious curve of her lips. It was the first peace she had shown since she arrived. But the world is never kind for long. The next morning, Cole found horse tracks near the creek. He crouched beside them, his breath clouding in the cold. The snow was fresh, but the prints were newer still. He followed them only far enough to see the smoke of another camp down the valley. Too many horses, too close. His gut tightened. He returned to the cabin, carrying silence like a weapon. Elara looked up when he entered, and even before he spoke, she knew. "They found me," she said. He didn't deny it. Instead, he walked to the gun rack by the door and took down his rifle. She flinched. "Don't," she said. "If you fight them, they'll kill you too." He loaded a bullet, slow and steady. "I ain't lookin' for a fight," he said. "But I won't let them take you." She wanted to protest, but something in his voice, a calm beyond fear, silenced her. Outside, the snow began to fall again, thin and whispering, as if the sky wanted to hide what was coming. By dusk they came. 5 riders, their torches painting long shadows across the white. Silas Red rode at the front, his beard streaked with gray, his smile a crooked scar. He called out before he reached the porch. "Evening, cowboy. We're looking for a girl. Little thing. Black hair. Pretty as a sin." Cole opened the door, stepping into the cold. The light from the cabin stretched behind him like a halo. "Ain't seen her," he said. Silas tilted his head. "Funny. Snow says otherwise." He pointed to faint footprints near the step. "I'll make this simple. You let me have her, and maybe you keep breathing." Cole's face didn't change. "You should turn back." "Or what?" Silas laughed, drawing his gun. "You'll kill us all?" Cole looked at him. Just looked, and something in that stillness made the bandits shift uneasily. "No," he said at last. "Not tonight." Then he moved. The world broke open in motion. The shovel by the door cracked against one man's jaw, another lunged, only to be thrown into the snow. Silas fired, the shot grazing Cole's arm, tearing through his coat. Elara screamed his name from inside. Cole charged through the smoke, caught Silas by the collar, and drove him into the snowbank. His revolver found the man's throat. For a heartbeat, the only sound was their breathing. "Go," Cole said. "Take your men and go." Silas spat blood. "You'll regret this." Cole's hand didn't shake. "Maybe. But I won't regret not killing you." Something flickered in Silas's eyes, a flash of confusion, maybe shame. Then he shoved Cole away and staggered back toward his horse. One by one, the bandits followed, limping, cursing, leaving a trail of red in the snow. When they were gone, the night returned to silence. Cole dropped his revolver into the drift, breathing hard. The snow began to cover it, as if the earth itself wanted to hide the memory of violence. Inside, Elara ran to him, her hands trembling. "You're bleeding." He looked down at his arm, half smiling. "It's just a scratch." But his face was pale, and she could see the exhaustion behind his calm. She tore a strip from her skirt and bound the wound. "You didn't kill them," she said softly. He met her eyes. "Killing don't fix the dead." She nodded, though tears filled her lashes. Something warm and strange rose between them, a quiet recognition. The kind that happens when 2 broken souls stop running from the same storm. Days passed. The bandits never returned. Snow began to melt from the roof, dripping like time itself, easing its grip. Elara helped him with the chores, fetching water, tending the fire, cooking stew that smelled of time and memory. The silence between them softened, no longer born of fear but comfort. Sometimes he'd catch her humming again, and he'd pause in his work just to listen. One morning, she found him outside, standing beneath the old pine near the creek. He was carving something small from wood, a tiny bird, wings half spread. "For you," he said, handing it over without meeting her eyes. "You sang the winter away." She held it carefully, as if it might fly from her hands. "You gave me back my breath," she said. He looked at her then, sunlight catching in his gray eyes. Neither spoke after that. They didn't need to. When spring finally came, a traveling preacher passed through the valley. Cole asked him to stop by the cabin. There, beneath the same pine, with the smell of thawing earth all around, they were married. Elara wore a necklace of white beads, the only thing she'd saved from her tribe. Cole wore the same coat he'd fought in, the sleeves still stitched with her care. The preacher's words were brief, but when he said, "You may speak your vows," Elara's voice shook with quiet conviction. "You gave me safety when I had none," she said. "You showed me mercy when the world had forgotten it. I am not afraid anymore." Cole's voice was lower, roughened by wind and time. "You brought the world back to life for me," he said. "Guess that's what home feels like." The preacher smiled, and the wind carried their vows into the trees. Snow still lingered on the peaks, but in the valley, the grass was green again. Years later, people who traveled through that region would speak of the cabin in the valley, the one that always seemed to glow warmly, even in the deepest snow. They said a woman with dark hair and gentle eyes lived there with her husband, the quiet cowboy who never raised his gun again. Some nights, when the wind howled through the pines, travelers swore they heard a voice whisper through the snow, "Please, just let me stay until they are gone." And maybe that was true. Or maybe it was just the sound of love refusing to die, soft, eternal, echoing in the heart of the Wild West.